Welcome to rSlash Today I F'd Up, where OP discovers the horrors of butthole hair trimming. Today I F'd up by falling for a 5-year-old April Fool's joke. This just happened to me 10 minutes ago. So I was making instant ramen, as college students tend to do, and then I thought to myself, business has been good lately, I can afford to treat myself. So I figured I would indulge by adding the most precious of treats to my broth, a hard-boiled egg. So I looked up on the internet if you could hard boil an egg in the microwave, and as luck would have it, I found a very easy to follow article with instructions on how to do it. I was filled with glee. So, popping the egg in some water and in the microwave, I put the timer to 8 minutes, following the instructions to a T. After 3 minutes of me salivating for the fruit of my labor, a loud bang ravaged me from my thoughts. Indeed, the egg had exploded, filling my whole microwave with bloody egg gore. Dumbstruck, I checked the article for the source of my mistake, and that's when I noticed the article is from April 1st, 2014. Well played, Internet Food Journal. I'm gonna clean the microwave now. So, OP, what you're telling us is that your meal was very exciting? Today I effed up by almost committing a war crime. Obligatory not today, this was about 10 years ago. I started doing stand-up when I was in the army, in Afghanistan actually. I started telling stories around the fire at night, but eventually started doing shows in the chow hall or during talent shows if we were on a bigger base at the time. It wasn't uncommon for me to do so badly that I lost people during these shows. I even had a platoon opt to go on patrol early rather than watch my whole set. I was less fun than possibly dying. I wanted to get better, so I ordered a book and started working on trying to improve crowd work, talking to the audience, and being more physical. I figured if I could make the interpreters laugh with the language barrier, I'd be on my way to becoming a better comic. During our next patrol, we detained several suspected Taliban fighters. We needed to keep them on our base until they could get picked up by the intel people, so we needed to watch them for 2 days. I thought the idea of a literal captive audience was too good to pass up, and basically tried to do crowd work and run bits by them in an incredibly animated manner. Imagine Sebastian Maniscalco, but 2 months into comedy. I volunteered for as many guard duty shifts as I could. I tried jokes, I'd ask for their names and where they were from, jobs, etc. Anything I could try to make a joke about. Never a single laugh. Eventually, they got picked up and apparently one complained about my jokes specifically. I ended up getting a stern talking to for unconventional interrogation because I kept asking where they were from and what they did. And I had to explain that I was so bored and desperate to get better at comedy that I almost inadvertently committed a war crime. Too long, didn't read. I performed stand-up comedy for detained Taliban members that went so badly, they accused me of war crimes. I got a stern talking to for that. Dude, the other soldiers would rather risk dying than listen to you, and the freaking Taliban thought you were torturing them. Maybe stand-up comedy isn't for you. Today I effed up by accidentally ghosting a great first date. So last week I was in Korea and spontaneously decided to download Tinder a day before I was supposed to leave since I had no plans that day. Luckily, I found a guy who was willing to meet up with me that day and we planned to meet for dinner in Seoul. Then he told me he actually had plans at night but was willing to meet up for coffee. I agreed and we ended up meeting a few hours later to grab a coffee. He pays for my drink and immediately we connect and talk for a very long time. He was super sweet and very attentive throughout the whole date. I was surprised that we shared many similar interests. He promised that when I visit Korea again, he'd show me around and made tentative plans. He repeatedly told me he wanted to meet again, which I took as a sign of interest. Since I was returning to Japan, I had no intention of continuing to use Tinder, so I asked for another way to contact him. Since we were in Korea, I figured he would have Kakao Talk, a Korean messaging app, so I suggested that I should add him on Kakao. First big F up. I added him on Kakao through his QR code, despite never using the app before. Then sent a quick hi message and closed the app. After that, I forgot about it, and we quickly went back to chatting and banter. Eventually, it came around time for dinner, but neither of us wanted to leave early, and since he had his commitment at 9 p.m., he suggested we walk around and grab dinner. I agreed, and we walked around the streets of Seoul to find a place to eat. We settled for street food and talked over dinner. This time, I paid for the meal as a thank you for the coffee, and we headed back to the station. But since neither of us wanted to depart, we made one last pit stop, and he decided to show me a Korean bookstore. We were supposed to end the date at 7 p.m., but we kept on pushing it back as we found new things to discuss until it reached almost 7:30. It was finally time to go, so we walked to the station together. He told me that he was very lucky to have met me and I should call him when I reach my hotel safely. We agreed to keep in touch online. We depart and I get on the train. My hotel was 1 hour and 30 minutes away by train, so 45 minutes in, I decided to spontaneously delete Tinder. Since I had this guy on Kakao, it shouldn't have been a problem to delete Tinder, right? Second F up. When I finally reached my hotel around 9 p.m., I decided to open up Kakao Talk and message him. I look at our chat log, and it was empty. I remember thinking, weird, I thought I messaged hi earlier, but I quickly dismissed it and tried to send another message. It didn't go through, so I tested another message, and it didn't work. Turns out, I'm partially banned from Kakao Talk because the number I registered with isn't associated with a carrier anymore. This means I can't send messages unless they send the first message. I quickly go into panic mode and try to contact him through other means. However, I deleted my Tinder account, which was my main way of contacting him. So I thought that maybe I should make another Kakao account with my Korean number and contact him through there. So I uninstall and reinstall Kakao Talk and create a new account. Third F up. Clearly I wasn't thinking because there was no way to re-add him since I don't have his Kakao ID. So I backtrack and tried to log into my old Kakao account and just wait for him to message me first. Immediately I receive a pop-up notification. This account is temporarily disabled. I thought the ban only extended to messaging, but apparently now I can't log in either. I messaged Kakao support and they said it would take several weeks to unban me if they don't find anything wrong. Great, so now I guess I unwillingly ghosted my first date. I really put in the effort to contact him again by trying to find other social media, but to my avail, I had no luck. So I guess I'll never be able to contact him again, and the whole date was just one big fever dream of my time in Korea. So this thread got a ton of upvotes and everyone got together and tried to figure out how she could reconnect with this guy. And luckily, OP posted an update. I tried the GPS spoofing Tinder hack so many of you suggested and was able to land my account in Gangnam Seoul where I initially was when I matched with him. But to my dismay, I couldn't find him at all. I narrowed down my options to his age range, but it still didn't work. My index finger was swiping left constantly. I felt like a broken record. I swiped left on hundreds of guys until eventually there were no more matches to be found. So I finally decided to replay the entire date over again in my head and suddenly recall my date explaining how he signed up for a language exchange app to learn English and how he's an active member. I didn't recall the name of the app, but it was a total big brain move that I didn't utilize the power bequeathed before my very hands, which was Google. So now, with a million fewer IQ points, I search language exchange apps popular in Korea and was presented with a few options. Immediately, one of the icons displayed looked very familiar. That's the one I thought. That's the app that he showed me during our date. I rushed to the App Store to download the app and impatiently fill out the prompts to create a new account. I selected the I want to teach Korean and I want to teach English options. Finally, I was done creating my profile. The app told me it would take up to 7 days to approve of my account, so I can start finding language exchange partners. Since this was my only lead left, I unwillingly played the waiting game. An hour later, I received a notification that my account was approved. I rushed to the app and nervously scanned the Korean profiles that popped up in my feed. There were profiles after profiles of teen girls with straight black hair and wispy bangs trying to emulate their favorite K-pop idol, or middle-aged guys with unflattering selfie angles. But none of them was the guy I was looking for. I was a bit dejected, but found out that the premium subscription allowed me to search for specific users. I fidgeted around, trying to find my date from the free users list, but was finding very little luck with that method. I caved in, shelling out the $20 for the premium subscription, justifying that it makes sense to pay for it because at least I'll get to practice speaking different languages. Although this was just an excuse to hopefully rekindle with them. Once my transaction was complete, I accessed the search bar and typed in his Tinder alias. My reasoning was that since his actual Korean name is so common, think John Smith, he wouldn't put it on the app. I held my breath, waiting for the results to show up, but no results were found. I was slightly disappointed, but didn't lose hope. Maybe, by a stroke of luck, searching by his Korean name would work? I was doubtful, but grasping at whichever straws I had left. From past experience, searching up his Korean name on Facebook gave me more than 100 results, but none of them were him. I typed in his Korean name and pressed enter. I resumed holding my breath and prayed that this would work. The words 2 results popped up on my screen. I frantically looked at the results. The first profile was a buff dude with a gnarly bleach blonde goatee. Not my guy, I dismissed. Then I quickly glimpsed at the second profile and my eyes widened and my heart froze. It was him! It was the guy I so desperately tried to find this past week. I clicked on his profile, but suddenly my anxiety kicked in. What if I messaged him and he thinks I'm too desperate and is turned off? I panicked, but forced myself to initiate a message anyways. Like, what was I going to say? Hey, sorry for ghosting you for a week. Are we Gucci? What if he's mad? What if he doesn't like me anymore? I took a deep breath to clear my mind and tried to articulately explain my situation in a few sentences. I repeatedly revised and deleted part of my opening message before I finally decided to take the dive and hit send. Then it was playing the waiting game again. One perk about being a premium member on this app was that you got to see when users are active. After a few minutes, the app said he was active right now. Great, I thought optimistically. He'll message me soon and we'll clear up all the misunderstandings. Minutes went by and he didn't respond. That's okay. Maybe he's in a conversation with someone else. Several minutes turned into an hour and 1 hour turned into 2 hours. My stomach churned. Maybe I really did F up by not being cautious enough with my messaging apps. I mean, what kind of sick psychological game was this, making me receive a taste of my own medicine? Every time my phone buzzed with a notification from the language app, my ears perked up a bit, but it was always some middle-aged guy propositioning me for intercourse or a white dude with yellow fever trying to use the new pickup lines he learned in Japanese. Occasionally, I'd get a wholesome friend request from someone genuinely trying to learn English, but nevertheless, out of all the 32 messages I received, none were from my date. Yet, I gave him the benefit of the doubt from experiencing how overwhelming the app could be within those 2 hours. I changed my language exchange profile to exactly mirror my Tinder profile and put my language exchange profile on high visibility mode so that he would notice it. Suddenly, I got an influx of messages from various users in addition to the Reddit notifications from my previous Today I F'd Up. I couldn't stand it and temporarily muted all my notifications on my phone and headed to class for 2 hours. After class, I was ready to cut my losses and understood if my date didn't want to contact me again. However, I decided to open up the app after class and check my messages, not expecting anything to happen. But still, within me was a nestled hope that he still wanted to reach out to me. And there it was. Nestled within all the other messages was an unread message from my date. Even though I said I was ready to cut my losses just a few minutes before, I couldn't help but squeal. I couldn't stop my smiling and did an excitement lap around the hallway outside my classroom. He seemed genuinely happy that I found him again and that he could keep in contact with me. I was jumping for joy on the way back home. We resumed our conversation from the week before as if nothing happened. Later in the day, he called me through the language app and we talked about our crazy weeks. I'm just so glad to have found him again and talked to him about various topics. I don't need some crazy, intense rom-com-esque relationship. I'm just content with keeping in contact and seeing what happens from there. I like how she says she doesn't want a crazy rom-com relationship, yet this post reads exactly like the first 30 minutes of a typical rom-com. Today I effed up by using a nose hair trimmer to manscape my nether regions, and subsequently revealing mankind's most horrible secret on Reddit. As a preface to this Tifu, I am committing one of the greatest societal taboos and revealing a secret that heretofore has been zealously guarded throughout the ages. It is a correlate to childbirth in that just as postmenopausal women wouldn't dare tell an expectant mother how truly agonizing childbirth is, no man in his 50s would traumatize a man in his youthful prime with fears of the anatomical horror that is to come. But times have changed and new technology places men in grave danger. So now you must know of this biological atrocity in order that you might avoid my disastrous F up. Sometime around midlife, men's hair follicles undergo a revolting mutation. While hair atop one's head thins and drops, new hair grows in places you never imagined. Bristle-stiff tufts sprout outside and inside of ears and up nostrils. Eyebrows become bushy, unruly, and coarse. Pubic hair turns gray and scraggly. I kid you not. And these hairs grow alarmingly fast and require constant attention, lest you become that guy with a bunny paw sticking out of his ear. Their eradication is a battle men wage stoically and silently through the second half of their lives. And as with any battle, there are casualties. Now, on to my F up. I found a great nose hair trimmer in the as advertised on TV aisle at CVS. It looks like and operates like a miniature hedge trimmer. It's virtually impossible to cut yourself, but mows down the hair. Yesterday, I was trimming ear, nose, and eyebrow hairs after a shower. I was so happy with the results that I decided to try it on my pubes too. It worked great. Soon, I had gone a bit overboard and pretty much shaved my balls and the base of my shaft to the skin. I like the new look, but my bushy taint was a testicular neck beard that had to go. I positioned a makeup mirror on the bathroom floor and laid down spread eagle, knees up, so I could see and trim everything well. Where once a few wispy hairs prevailed, unbeknownst to me, a virtual forest had arisen. Worst of all, my butthole was sporting Borat mustache butt brows. Trusty new nose hair trimmer in hand, I prepared for battle. The butt brows had to go first. I began on the left and quickly decimated the bunghole caterpillar. I moved decisively to the right, prepared to take down butt brow 2 with one swift stroke close to the skin. However, this was not to be. Instead, my butt hairs wrapped around the trimmer blade like Rapunzel using a superheated curling iron, pulling the device tight against my skin and jamming the blade. The hairs were being ripped from my flesh and the pain was excruciating. No matter how I tried, I couldn't remove the trimmer. Wiggling it tugged the hairs more. Restarting it was a double down that I lost. The hairs were wound even tighter against the blade. I frog walked naked to my bedroom, one hand holding the trimmer tight between my butt cheeks and searched for cuticle scissors. No luck. I did, however, find a carpet knife. Unbearable pain breeds desperation. Back on the bathroom floor, I tried in vain to cut myself free, nicking the tenderest of flesh twice and drawing the first blood of battle. I was making little progress, and it was time to make the ultimate sacrifice. After a suitable prayer, I gripped tight on the trimmer and committed reverse harakiri, Brazilian wax style, ripping off the trimmer blade along its butt brow net trap. Blinding pain left me curled fetal, hyperventilating, while blood slowly trickled down my butt crack. I decided to share my today I effed up and expose life's cruel secret in the best interest of mankind, that others may avoid falling prey to the technological wonders of as seen on TV hair removal tools. Young men of Reddit, I beg of you to heed my warning. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. OP, what I want to know is, assuming that butt trimming had gone successfully, did you intend on using that on your nose hairs again? That was rSlash Today I Effed Up, and unless you want me to come to your house and aggressively trim your butthole hairs, then you'd better hit that like button.